Good day, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Safari Mack Explores Australia. I'm Safari Mack, your guide and host, helping you make connections to the wild. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're still hanging out along the Great Barrier Reef, as well as hanging out with the Manta Ray, or Cephaloteris manta. Now, unfortunately, though, today I'm considering this as one of our last marine animals of Australian waters for a while until we head back out and explore other worlds or go back to special continents. So, another thing, today is kind of the last episode of one of the gentle sides of Australia because going forward, we're going to see some animals that we may be familiar with, but we're going to see a little bit more of the dangerous, wild side. And let's all face it, we laugh in the face of danger. And so, with that said, be sure to join me at the end of today's episode for the reveal of our very first dangerous animal of Australia, but one that many might call a beauty. First, if you're new to my channel though, hit that like and subscribe button. Check out my Facebook page for content on conservation. And if you have a question or if there's an animal that you want me to do in the future, you just got to send me an email, which you will always find the link to down in my description below. And so, let's get started with the wild things. First, the manta is actually one of the smartest creatures in the ocean. In fact, it has one of the largest brain to body weight ratio of any fish. So, consider that to be extra special. And now, mantas are pretty big, right? Usually they're around 12 to 14 feet long, or at least 3 to 5 meters. But the largest manta ever found on record was once measured at 22 feet long. Can you imagine seeing something like that today in the world's oceans? Now, like I mentioned last week with them being filter feeders, believe it or not, if you were to measure how much they eat in a week, these creatures are known to eat up to 12% of their own body weight in plankton in just 1 week. That's almost the same as the baleen whales, which would include humpbacks, blue whales, gray whales, all of those creatures. Can you imagine being able to eat that much food in a week? That own percentage of your body weight. Now, if you're afraid of stingrays, I can understand because of that barb that they use for defense against other animals and that unfortunately can kill a human. Well, I can tell you right now, you don't need to be afraid of the manta. They actually don't have that barb, so there's no worries about being stung. Another major cool thing about these creatures is that biologists have really studied these creatures interacting with others along the reef, especially with interacting with other forms of marine life, birds, fish, sometimes even mammals. Now, you would think of this, basically the ocean, in a way, it seems like a bit of a bathtub, right? You never get dirty. But of course, even fish need to keep clean, especially when it comes to their mouths as well as their skins. So I'm sure you've seen the classic picture of a crocodile or an alligator opening its mouth and allowing birds to come in and clean its teeth. Well, that's not to say that the reef doesn't have something like that as well. They have a cleaning station. So a number of fish along the reefs will come to these special kind of platforms and they will actually clean not just rays or fish, but even sharks have been observed coming to the reef to open up and allow different small fish to actually give their teeth and their skins a good cleaning. So these cleaning stations are helpful in reducing disease, and these creatures will usually spend an hour or so getting themselves clean, and will come back again for years to come. So talk about finding a good spot, huh? Now, unfortunately, we go into the problems and the challenges that these creatures are facing. Now, right now, they are listed as a vulnerable species, mostly due to overfishing and bycatch. Now, the manta ray, unfortunately, is highly sought after because of those huge gill rakers that they used, which really looks like this. This is the material that they use to catch that zooplankton in their bodies so that they can then filter out the water and get the food into their stomachs, right? Unfortunately, these people kill and hunt these animals to harvest these pieces as a form of kind of medicine. So once again, this really just shows that this isn't really, it may work, but then it really might not. So that's a bit of a major problem. Can you think of other animals that are similar in that sense? Rhinos have been poached for their horns because of medicine. Other animals for their for parts for arts or different materials, bases, perfumes, all of it. It really does threaten their survival today. But it gets worse. Pollution is one of the biggest problems for all marine life, as well as global warming. If you can recall what I've said to you about some of my previous ocean-dwelling episodes, unfortunately, because of climate change, we have seen major increases in temperature in the ocean. And when stuff like this happens, specialized habitats like the coral reefs or other animals, they just cannot survive. It just doesn't really seem to be going pretty well. And there's another major problem. Unfortunately, tourism can actually hinder their survival too. Now, not that people are abusing them, but because people want to touch these animals and pet them, it's actually dangerous because that slimy feel on their skin, that actually is what protects them from diseases as well as parasites. When they lose that protection, they're just as vulnerable. So, unfortunately, unsustainable tourist activity can hinder their survival. And another major problem for these animals, that's on them, and really, it's not really their fault, but it's just part of their nature. These creatures really are are one of those animals that, don't have as many babies throughout their lifetime. So a slower reproduction rate can really help dent their population. So if their population crashes because of climate change, lack of food, or any other problems, then basically it can be very difficult for them to recover. Now, thankfully, there is time, and we do have conservation measures that I can share with you today. Now, thankfully, all across along the Great Barrier Reef, many institutions and many research facilities are helping to identify, track, and learn about mantas so that we can learn to protect them better. Marine biologists really have given so much of their lives of patience and study to help us crack the surface of what ocean life really is. And because of this, we're able to know more about our ocean's health as well as its health impact to the planet. Remember, every drop we drink, every breath we take, it only comes from a healthy, clean ocean. And healthy fish stocks also come from healthy survival strategies or healthy sustainable practices where we can harvest but not damage the ocean. So if you know a marine biologist, give them the greatest thanks. And of course, I also want to thank my marine science teacher from high school again, because he helped me learn even more about the health of the planet by connecting that to the health of the oceans. So what can we do? For one, if you want to go look for manta rays, I encourage you to do that. It creates memories, but don't touch them. Leave them alone, as much as possible. These are wild animals, and it's better that they remain wild. Another major solution: choose sustainable seafood or support companies that make sustainable choices in terms of how they catch their food, how they catch fish. Another deal: participate in beach cleanups and encourage others to do the same and to make changes, and continue pressuring all people and our governments to continue to do the right thing and to help keep our oceans alive for generations that are to come. Because without this, we are headed for doom. But if we can turn that around now, there is always a fighting chance. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on the early parts of our exploration of Australia by looking at the marine life. But now we're about to head towards the land. So for starters, I'd like to introduce you to next week's animal, the saltwater crocodile. But until then, this is Safari Mack, and I'll see you all out there.